Super Rugby is almost a third of the way through, so it's a perfect time to check in on the Kiwi franchises. How are they tracking? Where are they headed in this competition? I'm going to break down all of the New Zealand teams, including Moana Pasifika, and give you a channel update. Let's get to it, guys. Well, let's start with the Blues, who remind me a little bit of this shipwreck behind me. They've certainly washed up on the shores of Super Rugby this year. Last year's champions, they do not look like themselves. But here's the deal. At the beginning of the season, we all thought it was about who's going to play at 10. Is it going to be Beauden Barrett or is he going to stay at fullback? Turns out that doesn't really matter, and it's not just because of his broken hand. It's the fact that it doesn't matter if you have Mickey Mouse playing at 10. If the Blues keep turning the ball over like they have, it really doesn't matter. Now, these blokes still have all that firepower in the forwards. They have Patrick Tuipulotu. They have Dalton Papali'i. They have Hoskins Satutu. They have Ricky Riccatelli. They can still play their pick-and-go game beautifully. They still have a functional scrum. They still have a good line-out. They are getting murdered at the breakdown. And until they rectify that with their technique and their passion, they are going to be also-rans this year. Which reminds me a little bit of the Hurricanes. Yes, the men from the capital of New Zealand haven't quite looked themselves either. And that's because Moana Pasifika revealed their Achilles heel. They are no good without Duplessis Karifi. When he wasn't out there playing, they coughed up way too much pill, and that meant that Ardie Savea and his men could get their maiden win of the season. Doesn't matter about all the firepower in the backline, including Ruben Love, who I adore, as you guys know. If you're going to turn over ball constantly, you are not going to be in the game. And right now, that is the problem with the Blues and the Hurricanes.
You know, initially it seemed like the Crusaders were swimming in some deep water, but as the season's progressed, they're starting to really find their footing. Sure, they look pretty rough against the Chiefs, but we saw this weekend against the Reds that they were looking like the men in red and black of old. And it's not just because of Sevu Reece, who can create something from absolutely nothing. I mean, he's got to be one of the best Super Rugby players of all time. It's not because of Will Jordan, and it's not even because of Taha Kemara, who has come a long way as a pivot. It's actually up front. The return of Cody Taylor has absolutely galvanized the men from down south. And I think the reason they tend to improve through the season is that the games get tighter. That forward battle becomes more and more intense and attritional. So with some big names coming back for the Crusaders, do not be surprised if they build nicely for the playoffs yet again, proving that last year's disastrous season was an anomaly.
Just a friendly reminder that if you're enjoying this content, please like, please subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Let's get back to the video. Let's talk for a second about Moana Pasifika. Some pretty gnarly losses. It was heartbreaking when they went down to the Highlanders. But if you look at the way they played against the Hurricanes getting up, they found their identity, and it was this man, their number 10, utilizing a kicking game. They have a point of difference with him. If you look at the way he used to play for Tonga, he would turn teams around with his educated boot. They could play a territorial game, get down the right end of the field, and then you got a strike weapon by the name of Ardie Savea to draw on. Not too bad. Not just a one-man team. I think with their pivot, they're onto something. They need to use that deadly boot of his to inflict damage. They did it against the Canes. They had Ruben Love and co turning around, running backwards all day. Let's see more of that. Play to your DNA. Play to your identity as a team. That's what they have to do. I think Moana Pasifika have found the 10 that can guide them to maybe a winning season at least. All right, guys, here is a channel update for you. You've made it very clear. You want me to post more. I appreciate that. I got you. So what's going to happen is you're going to start getting more Super Rugby coverage. I'm going to put up a poll every week, starting next week, asking you what game do you want me to live stream after. Make sure you engage with that. Vote. I will go live after one Super Rugby game every weekend and then do a recap of every single round going forward. You spoke. You want more. I'm going to give you more. Let's go. So what to make of the Chiefs? They started off the season white hot. They gave the Blues a real toweling at Eden Park, and yet they lost their way against the Fijian Drua. So what does that mean? Does that mean that perhaps we're overrating them, overhyping the men from Waikato? I don't think so. You know, the Drua have won 7 in a row at home. It is an absolute graveyard for visiting teams, and I predict that this game will go down as an anomaly, meaning the Chiefs will find their mojo again, particularly with Damian McKenzie back in the saddle. Never good to drop a game, but at the end of the day, the Drua beat the Crusaders during their championship-winning seasons. They have pretty much everybody's number at home, and this was no different. The Highlanders, I'm a little bit more scared for. Yes, they've won 2 out of 3, and they almost beat a very good Waratahs team in Sydney. And what I like about them is they've really got some beef up front. Not just All Black Ethan de Groot, but they have a pack that is firing on all cylinders. They're winning the breakdown battle, which, as we've talked about in this video, is pretty crucial in Super Rugby this year because the halfback is absolutely getting smashed around the rucks if he is not moving quick enough. Finlay Christie, I'm looking at you, mate. More than ever, the breakdown matters in Super Rugby with the tweaks that we've seen to the laws. And the Highlanders, well, they have a very good Lucy mix. They also have Folau Fakatava. He's coming on strong. He's a former All Black. He's still in the mix now that TJ Perenara has gone offshore. He could be wearing a black jersey again in the future. But something tells me the Highlanders are not going to go all the way this year, but they will be the big improvers of the competition. And I just want to mention Cam Miller, who I rate as a very good first 5. I touched on Taha Kimura. I think that Miller is an absolutely Mertens-esque young pivot in the making, and I particularly like his icy cool goal kicking. So keep your eye on the Highlanders. I don't think they're going to go all the way, but they're going to be in the mix when it comes down to the pointy end of the season. The Chiefs, on the other hand, Chiefs Mana, they're going to shrug off that loss in Fiji and be back to their best very soon.